I can't stop making bags, even though I have way more than I actually need. There's something so satisfying about bag making. There are so many different styles and construction techniques to try. I feel like I could just keep making and making them. I've gathered up every bag that I've made since I started sewing. I'm going to show you what each one looks like up close. I'll let you know what pattern or tutorial I used if I did use one. And I'll let you know which bags were the most useful or the most fun to sew. I also thought it would be fun to count up the number of bags that I've sewn, and I'll let you know that number at the end of the video. I honestly have no idea, but I'm really curious to find out, and if you want to take a guess right now and put that number in the comments, I think it'd be pretty fun to see how close or far off everybody is. Alright, I wanted to start by showing you the bag project that I made most recently. This was so much fun to make. I just finished it a couple of days ago, and I absolutely love how it turned out. It has got this really interesting pattern that goes all around the front and back and across the bottom with no seam along the bottom, which is a different bag construction technique that I really haven't tried before. I also used a new technique, well, new to me, on the way that the zipper is attached. For this, I used a method I saw in an Instagram post, and I'll link to the post below in case you want to check it out. It's basically like the thing that you do when you're making a welt pocket. You know the thing where you put two pieces of fabric on top of each other, outer and lining, you sew a really long and thin rectangle, and then you cut through the middle of it and make this like Y shape towards the corners, and then you flip one through the other so that you end up with lining fabric on the bottom, right side fabric on the top, and this perfect little thin rectangular cutout. So for the zipper construction, you do that, and then you place it on top of the zipper and top stitch all around it. I think it creates such a nice finish on the outside of the bag. On the inside, the bottom layer of fabric gets sewn to the lining, so there are no raw edges. The only thing about this is that the zipper edges aren't enclosed in fabric. They are visible on the inside of the bag, but that really isn't something that bothers me. For the quilted design on the outside of the bag, I followed a tutorial here on YouTube, which I've linked in the description. I found it pretty straightforward and easy to follow, although the amount of time it took to sew ended up being quite a bit more than I expected. I used leftover scraps from IKEA bedding, and you might recognize this fabric from my IKEA duvet flip video. Next is this accordion pouch. I followed a tutorial here on YouTube, which I have linked in the description in case you want to follow it too. This is a really unique project. It's something that I've never sewn anything like before, and it was a lot of fun to make. I use it for storing jewelry and little trinkets. Alright, let's jump back in time to one of my first bag making projects, and I guess it's more of a pouch than a bag, but I'm including these all in one category. These I did with fabric that I did indigo shibori on, so they're all kind of different, and I made the beginner mistake of sewing some top stitching around the edges using black thread when I really should have used a white or off-white thread, or maybe even blue to complement the indigo. So they're not the most professional looking things, but they are useful. I've been using them for a really long time to store my art supplies. So I have one that I store my watercolor paints in, and one that I store my pens, pencils, and eraser in. Here's another one I did that's a bit bigger, and I finally realized that it was a good idea to start using matching thread when I made this one. Those kind of simple zipper pouches are a fantastic beginner project. They're very fast and easy to make, and they're great if you're just learning how to install zippers. You'll probably notice I have made a lot of bags using my indigo shibori fabric. I think it's because I made mostly really small pieces of indigo shibori, and they're definitely not large enough to make bigger projects, but perfect for bag making and just making your bags a little bit more interesting. So these two are drawstring bags. I use one of them to store fabric scraps that are just good for stuffing, just my absolute smallest fabric scraps that I really can't do anything else with. The other one I use to store small scraps of quilt batting. This one I made pretty early on. I actually upcycled an old pair of jeans that I had, and I made this kind of interesting bag. It utilized the button closure that was already included in the pants, and it also uses the pocket that was built into the original pants. Inside it, I have this tiny little pouch that is currently holding, I believe it's buttons, And it's just got this strip across the back that is made up of scrap fabric and is just like this fun decorative element. Ha, there's more bags in this bag. An envelope pouch made out of scrap fabric. Is there a bag in that bag? No, that's it. And a little linen fabric basket, also made out of scraps, that is holding more scraps and loose fabric ends that can be used for stuffing. This is one of my favorite bags I've ever made. I often take it with me when I go hiking, and I found the instructions to make this through a post on Pinterest. I'll warn you, the instructions are just measurements for cutting out your fabric and picture instructions, which are not the most clear, and I think there might be a few steps missing, so I found it slightly confusing when I was making this bag, but it definitely is doable. You just might have to figure out a few construction steps on your own. So this is a backpack, and I made one mistake while I was making it, which was not cutting enough fabric for this strip that goes right around the outside of the bag. So you can see where I've added in a little patch of fabric there, which doesn't bother me. I think it just looks like a design element. It's a really cool bag. It has this front zipper pouch that you can store things in, and then it's got this main pouch that is quite large. It's pretty big, it can hold a lot of stuff, and I find it comfortable to wear. This is a crossbody bag in a style that I've made 3 times. It's one of my favorite bags and one of the ones that I use the most often. So you can probably tell more in the close-up videos than from here, but the fabric on this bag is quite dirty and probably needs a wash, and that's just because it is one that I use all the time. It can hold a lot of stuff. It has a main compartment on the inside that is accessed through a zipper, and on the outside it also has a pouch. This is another bag that I made using the same design. It has 2 pouches on this side and a third one on the back, so I definitely went for more pouches on this one. And the thing about all of these bags is they are done with cotton batting on the inside, so they're like quilted layers for these pockets, and even the part that has the zipper, everything has cotton batting, so it is kind of padded and protective for the things that you have inside, and it just makes it feel a bit sturdier, and also you can have fun with the quilting. So on this one I did some quilted lines that are intersecting going on the diagonal. On this side, I just did straight lines back and forth. And this is another one in the same style that I made using indigo shibori fabric, and it has a pouch on both the front and back sides. This one's also in a similar style. I made this before making the other bags. It's about half the height, and I didn't put cotton batting between the main and lining fabric that attaches to the zipper. So it ends up having less structure and kind of caving in if there isn't something in the bag to hold it up. So that's definitely something that is important, and that I learned from making this bag, is that you need to put cotton batting everywhere in a bag that is structured with cotton batting. This one has shorter pouches, and it has these divided pouches on the front here, and then a larger pouch behind, and another larger pouch on the back. Drawstring bags are one of my favorite things to make. I made these little ones out of scrap fabric, and one of the things I love to do is add embroidered details, especially if I'm making these bags with just a plain color of fabric. The embroidery just makes them extra special. I use these ones to store different types of buttons. This is another drawstring bag that I made out of little pieces of scrap fabric. One of the great things about making drawstring bags is you can make them in any size. You can scale them up or down depending on how much fabric you have to work with. They're really useful for storing and keeping track of small things. I'm currently using this one to hold little loose bits of embroidery thread from a project that I'm working on. This is a drawstring bag that I made out of selvage edges. I love being able to use every part of the fabric, and I think the different colors here go really well together. I made this drawstring bag to use up little pieces of scrap fabric, and I actually filmed a whole video tutorial showing you how to make this, so if you're interested in seeing that, it is linked in the description. This one is a little bit unique to other drawstring bags that I've made because it has a round bottom. A style of bag that I've had a lot of fun making lately are these squeeze pouch or flex frame pouches. They have a piece of metal hardware that goes along here. It's a frame, and when you squeeze it, the bag opens. Otherwise, it keeps it shut. This is a really fast and easy beginner-friendly project to make, and it can be a great way of using up scrap fabric. These are a couple of other versions that I made using indigo shibori fabric. And this is a little one I made with selvage edges. This one I made as a sample in a tutorial video that I did recently showing you exactly how to make a squeeze pouch. So if you're interested in seeing that video, the link is in the description. I also offer sewing kits that come with all of the materials you need to make a pouch like this. This is a drawstring bag I made following a tutorial here on YouTube. I combined several different pieces of scrap fabric and did some decorative stitching along all of the joints. I use this to store my embroidery thread. The instructions to make this bag came from the book Contemporary Patchwork, which I really enjoyed. I love the construction and the fact that it includes a drawstring element so that you can keep everything that's in there secure. It has a pocket on the front that I've made by patching together some different fabric scraps. This bag has a similar design. Again, I used a whole bunch of fabric scraps that I had in order to create the pouch on the front. I also put a pocket on the back of this one, and it does still have that drawstring element. I use this bag to store my knitting supplies like yarn and needles, and I use the front and back pouches to store the knitting patterns that I'm working from. This is another project out of the book Contemporary Patchwork. I absolutely love it. It was so much fun to put together, and I found it to be very useful. I'm currently using it to store the fabric scraps that are remaining from my IKEA duvet cover. I love the closure and the fact that it is quite unique. It's basically a string fed through all of these loops, and when you tighten the string, everything comes together and it kind of closes like a drawstring bag without having the full channel for the string to go through. Of course, it's such a nice design with the gradients of indigo, and I thought it was a great way to use up some of my indigo fabric. Speaking of indigo, this is an entire backpack that I made by stitching together different shades of indigo fabric and doing some hand quilting with embroidery thread. This was such a fun project. I loved how improvisational it was. I was kind of just putting fabrics next to each other and seeing what I thought would work well in terms of different shapes and different shades and trying to make things feel balanced. It has this big flap, and on the outside there's also a little pocket. This is a pouch that I made using a piece of fabric that was originally intended to be the base for that backpack, but then I realized that this was much too big to be the base, so I just made a new one. So this was originally one side and the other side of a large oval. And what I did was kind of the welt pocket thing, where I just placed a piece of fabric on top of it that was the lining fabric. I sewed that little rectangular slit and flipped it inside, and then I just did bias binding around the outside. So there's no closure, it is just a pouch. I don't really have any ideas for the functionality of it or what I'm going to use it for, but I just wanted to do something with that little piece of fabric, and this is the thing that I felt drawn to do. I made this from a couple of remnant pieces of fabric with colors that I thought went well together, and I followed a tutorial on YouTube that is linked in the description. I like that I made it a good substantial size, and I use it to store sewing notions like elastics and zippers. This is essentially a storage container that I made using fabric scraps, and I did some English paper piecing for the first time with these hexagons on the front panel, and I added a hexagon design on the back to kind of make things feel cohesive. I'm not even sure exactly what's inside. Let's have a look. Buttons and my collection of pliers. And scrap fabric. Good to know. This is a little pouch that I made out of scrap fabric. It has a button closure, and on the inside I store things like SD cards and USB sticks. Apparently the front pouch also contains paper clips. Didn't know that. This is a nice big quilted tote bag. I followed a written tutorial which I've got linked below. I definitely find it useful to bring things with me when I go out. This is a cute little one that has a snap closure, and the color is achieved with avocado skins and pits. The way that I got lighter and darker shades was by using soy milk to paint the kind of pattern on the fabric before dipping it in the vat of avocado. I also have this box. Don't worry, it's not all bags. There are also some books in here, so this shouldn't take too much longer, but I think I'm just gonna go rapid fire. These are a bunch of bags that are not currently in use. I just made a whole lot of kind of pencil case type zipper pouches when I had all of this indigo shibori fabric that I wanted to use. Zipper pouch, a different shaped zipper pouch, Another couple of these cute little button closure pouches. Zipper pouch with a pocket on the front. Another couple of zipper pouches. A fold-over pouch with a button closure. This is a larger squeeze pouch with a divided pocket on the front. A pouch with a snap closure. I forgot about these and I love them. So this pouch has a flap and a button closure. On the back it has divided pockets. Nothing special on the inside, just lining fabric. This version, I can already tell, has a lot of stuff going on the inside. Ah yes, layers and layers of pockets. There's another one inside. What? That's so cute. Ooh, that's a nice lining. Ah, this is the lining on the bigger one, by the way. Very special. Haven't found a use for them yet, but I love the design. Another little pouch with a snap closure. A slightly oddly shaped zipper pouch. And the last one. Could it be the last one? This is a tiny drawstring bag that I did some decorative embroidery stitching on. It is super cute, and again, like I think all of my drawstring bags, it's made out of scrap fabric. Oh no, there's more. I forgot about the bags that are inside this bag. So we have a fold-over pouch currently holding yarn. Another fold-over pouch also holding yarn. Drawstring bag holding, you guessed it, yarn. And a pouch with no closure and, again, yarn. Okay, I've counted 59 bags in total, but there's one more that I forgot to show you because it was hiding inside of this backpack. It is this little pouch, which I think has, yep, snap closures. And nothing fancy on the inside, just lining. But it is also made of indigo fabric. And has some hand-stitched quilting using embroidery thread on the outside. That is it. 60 bags. Very interesting. Will I stop at 60? Probably not. I clearly love making bags. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video and maybe you got some inspiration for project ideas that you'd like to work on yourself. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, feel free to subscribe to this channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.